This goat skin is about to be turned into parchment, an old kind of paper made from animal skin. It goes through a laborious process of having every last hair scraped off. The craft dates back to 2500 BC, and this is the last place in the US that still makes it. Every piece takes at least 2 weeks to make, and only a handful of people in the entire world know how.
Parchment as a product almost hasn't survived. There was almost no need for it as a material.
But it was this centuries-old work that helped Jesse Meyer save his family tannery. We visited their facility in Montgomery, New York, to see how it's still standing. Making parchment is a messy craft. It's cold and wet around the workshop, but the lingering smell is something Jesse's gotten used to. It all starts with the skin. Deer, goat, calf, and sheepskin are sent by slaughterhouses or local hunters. Jesse soaks it in a mixture of water and calcium hydroxide to break down the fibers, loosen the hair, and clean it. This is the longest part of the process, taking at least 2 weeks. Then it's time for dehairing. Jesse scrapes at the skin, pushing the hair off. He uses a makeshift tool, a 100-year-old piece of wood that has the perfect shape for the job.
Even the hand tools that we use, most people have never seen before. And in some cases, they don't exist, and I've had to, recreate these tools myself.
After dehairing, he removes the extra meat layers on the other side. They've installed machines to help speed this along, but sometimes Jesse prefers the traditional way.
The more involved you can be with your own hands, the better and more control you have over the end product. But there is a point where if you're doing this on a commercial scale to try to be efficient and more economical, you don't really have the ability to handle each one by hand.
The hides then go through a thorough rinse. That adjusts the pH level after weeks of intense chemical treatment. Jesse selects some of the clean skins to be dyed in a large drum. He uses plant-based pigments and water to create a range of colors. As the skins tumble, they soak up the dye until they're saturated. He hangs the
since then.
The rare craft saved his family's centuries-old tannery business, which has been in the country since his ancestors moved here in 1820. By the time Jesse took over, demand for leather was on the decline, and by 2005, keeping the business going was getting more difficult. That's when Jesse introduced parchment making. But he struggled to find out about the process.
There are a handful of other companies around the world that do this sort of thing, and they're far, far away, and they've never told me how they do what they're doing, so I've had to try to figure this out in a vacuum, so it's me figuring it out as I go and what seems to work best for me. Because it's such an old medieval craft, anytime I would try to go look up information, a lot of times it was from medieval recipes that were written in Latin from 1400.
Eventually, parchment became such an important part of the business, Jesse changed the name from Meyer & Sons to Pergamena, which means parchment in Latin. And he found a niche of customers, conservators and designers who use the material in lampshades, upholstery, headboards, and even as wallpaper.
No two pieces of parchment look the same, so, which is a blessing and a curse. It's part of the artistry.
A single sheet starts at $100.
What started out feeling like an albatross around my neck ended up becoming a way to help revitalize the family industry. I want to be proud of this and to be able to pass it on to my family, and for people to know that skilled work like this is still being done in the world. It's being made right here in the United States by a family that's been doing it for 450 years.